Building a brand new product, pushing a pretty legacy, slow to move industry. It took a lot of beating on doors. We didn't want to be scrappy about it. We didn't want to be the startup that ran our business in spreadsheets. It was very important to us that right out of the gate, we were building a platform for scale.
In order to compete on Vrbo Airbnb, you've got to have a more relaxed cancellation policy there, but you never want the policy on the OTAs or the price on the OTAs to be better, more lenient than what you have on your own site.
We want to do things differently. I think true innovation, for it to be meaningful, has to be built from within, because there are so many nuances that property managers deal with on a daily basis that make a product built outside of the industry less applicable or less impactful.
I remember going into reservation offices and it was like the reservation was like, we had 5 cancellations today. And then you're like freaking out, like, how are we going to fill in those holes? Well, now it's like you can really focus and breathe and not get down the rabbit hole of despair because you had cancellations.
We'll start the show in just a minute, but first, a word from our premier brand sponsor.
Hi, my name is Lauren Madewell. I'm with Antebellum's Cabin Rentals. We have been with Xplorie for over 15 years now. Before working with Xplorie, we were just recommending all the local attractions, but we never got anything out of it. And so now we get to work with the local attractions that we recommend, and it's not just, you should go here, it's a lot of fun. It's, you should go here, you get a free ticket, we love this place. When we first started working with Xplorie, what we were hoping that it would help us achieve is potentially signing on more homeowners because we could offer their guests more. We also wanted to earn more bookings because we were going to give guests more than the average booking. You book thinking you're just going to get a cabin or vacation rental, but now you get that and all these free tickets. So more homeowners and more guests and more repeat business. There is more competition than ever. All the markets are oversaturated. Money is tighter than ever. There's only so much you can do for a cabin. There's only so low you can go on the rates. There's only so high you can go on the specials. And we all just have rental properties. It's kind of the same thing. Where there is real value now in this economy is the guest is not just getting that cabin that they're paying for. They're seeing, with Antebellum's in particular, I'm getting over $900 in free tickets every day. That factors into their budgeting. It's an incredible economic advantage for the guests because they are looking where they can stretch their dollar the furthest. I really think that's more valuable to them than a lower rate or a higher special. I'd say the overall impact on the guest experience has been incredibly positive in measurable and immeasurable ways. Yes, we are absolutely seeing it in their Google reviews and their third-party platform reviews that they're enjoying the free ticket system. We know how much they're using it because they reach out before their stay asking questions and recommendations about the best way to use their free tickets. If another property manager asked me if Xplorie is worth it, there's no question. On the one hand, I'd be like, no, totally not worth it. Give me the competitive advantage. But no. I put my heart in everything. So I would actually say in this economy, I think you'd be silly not to work with Xplorie.
Looking to take your guest experience to the next level? Xplorie helps you stand out by connecting guests to curated, complimentary local activities. And now, Alex and Annie listeners get free onboarding when you join as a new partner. This exclusive offer is valid through November 30th, 2025. Click the link in the description to get started today.
Welcome to Alex and Annie, the Real Women of Vacation Rentals. I'm Alex.
And I'm Annie.
And we are joined today with Sasha Lawler, who is the CEO and founder of Roam. Sasha, it's so good to see you.
Good to see you.
Sasha, feel like we've known you for a really long time, but actually it's funny enough, we didn't actually, I don't think, meet in person until this spring, which is completely crazy because we've been in this industry like running around each other for a long time. But before we get started, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your background?
Yeah, it's an abomination. It took so long for us to actually meet.
Right?
But yeah, I feel like I grew up in this industry a little bit. I've been in hospitality, vacation rentals for about 15 years now. I started my career working on site in hospitality for a small luxury guest ranch out in Colorado in sales and reservations. Great experience. I moved over to the tech vacation rental side of things. I worked for Blue Tent Marketing out in Carbondale, Colorado, and ran their sales and marketing team. And we got acquired by Inhabit. I was promoted to lead go-to-market sales and marketing for all 13 brands within Inhabit, and that was just a wonderful opportunity to learn way more about all these businesses, but more importantly, property managers. It was a great experience to have thousands and thousands of conversations about what it's really like, right? And what property managers
Hmm.
are really struggling with. And in so many ways, that's, kind of where Rome was born.
That's great. So, what was the problem that you were seeking to solve, or what maybe kind of give us a look behind the curtain of what were like the conversations you were having with managers that made you think this is what I need to do right now?
Well, I think a lot of it really came from like having these conversations with property managers, and they're like, my Airbnb or my Verbo rep has been telling me to relax my cancellation policy. Sasha, I can't relax my cancellation policy. Like, what am I going to do? Tell an owner that a 10 grand reservation that booked 11 months out, 15 days out, canceled. Sorry, you can't pay your mortgage this month. The guest canceled. So we just really quickly recognized that managers were stuck between this rock and a hard place of, I want, obviously, I want to not get filtered out on these OTAs. I want to give travelers this seamless booking experience. We want to give travelers this flexibility. But hey, we're running a business. We've got owners to answer to. If I do this, I'm not protecting the asset, that really in charge of protecting. So really that's what we set out to do, is remove this trade-off between owners, travelers, um, in the market. And I think it couldn't be more timely, right? Like vacation rentals is the last standout. It's the last travel sector that hasn't adopted flexible booking, and where flexible booking really isn't standard. Hotels have done it post COVID, flights, airlines, and now it really is vacation rentals that are left standing. So that's what we're really kind of setting out to solve.
Can you tell us a little bit about how the actual program works? So it's actually, if I understand it correctly, it's you're working directly with the property managers as opposed to working with the consumer, correct?
Yes, that's correct. So very, very different than travel insurance, which all of our managers continue to merchandise, and they still should, right? Like, I need to get medevaced out, grandma gets sick, my flight 24 hours before it gets canceled. That's what folks are still buying insurance for. Rome is very different. We're a commercial insurance product that really sits on the back end. So we work with property managers and we say, hey, you go to market, go relax your cancellation policy, justify those higher rates, charge a premium for it. And we're essentially sitting on the back end, and our technology integrates directly with the property management software. So we have real time access to all of these reservations. We see when a booking comes in, we cover it. We also see when a booking gets canceled, so that we're able to really automate this claims process. And what we're doing is we're saying, if a guest cancels and you're not able to rebook the property, we're paying you back directly on the back end. So it's really this embedded commercial insurance that's giving managers the freedom to go to market with the policies that drive results while protecting their income and owners' income. And it's a playbook that has been used by really the largest consumer brands, right? Like, you think about Uber, you get into an Uber, you're not buying insurance, but that ride is protected, that driver is protected. You sign up to be a host on Airbnb, you've got damage and liability insurance included with your host profile. So some of the biggest brands have already leveraged commercial insurance to deliver these kind of like wow experiences. We're essentially just taking that playbook and bringing it to VR.
Gotcha. Okay. And so, is it if a property management company signs up with Rome, is it automatically included on all their reservations?
Yeah, so that's a great question. We want to be flexible, right? Like, we understand not every market's the same, not every property manager is the same, and not every strategy should be the same. So we want to offer managers a lot of flexibility in how they leverage this, how they merchandise this. So what we have one option where it is essentially fully embedded into every single booking. They say, hey, we want to update our cancellation policies globally. And this works really well on the OTAs, where today you can't really merchandise a refundable, non refundable rate. And we also give property managers flexibility in terms of how they work with us. Some folks say, gosh, I just want to relax my cancellation policy on the OTAs. I'm going to keep my strict cancellation policy on my direct booking website. So in those instances, yes, you're updating your cancellation policy globally. Every single reservation is protected. We are. I told you I didn't have any big launches, but we do. So I'm incredibly excited about this one. I think this is going to be game changing for us. We are launching a model. I mean, we've gotten a lot of feedback in the market. It's early. We launched in January, and we are essentially delivering an option where managers can essentially merchandise on their direct booking websites the ability for travelers, again, not buying travel insurance, but the ability to choose a refundable or a non refundable rate at checkout. And on the back end, we're ensuring we're protecting those reservations in which the traveler selected that refundable rate. And I think the beautiful thing about that is it's a no-brainer, right? Like don't displace your existing rate strategy, leverage a non-refundable booking to get more guaranteed revenue on the books, to build up that bottom line. Don't displace it, empower it, add the flexibility. It's just like the beautiful have your cake and eat it too. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah, and that makes perfect sense because you definitely you see that more with the hotels, I would say that it's like, when you go to check out, normally if you're on a direct booking website for a hotel, you've got a few different rate codes there. You could do like the bed and breakfast special, or you can do the advanced purchase, which is what you're talking about, where you get maybe 5% discount, but it is non-refundable. Or you can go with whatever the current special is, that maybe it's 10% off, 15% off, but it's refundable. But I mean, that's where it becomes a problem. And to have that revenue on the books for managers or any type of accommodations is huge to get ahead there. But my question would be, how does this work with the property management system? Because I know with some of my clients, when we've looked into doing something even without this program, but just kind of been floating that idea around, most of the property management systems don't have that ability. There are the ones that I've worked with, but how does that work between Rome and the PMSs?
So we're actually working directly with the website companies to merchandise multiple rates. Yeah, so really kind of taking what's in the PMS and then pushing that to the direct booking websites to be able to merchandise that. In terms of how Rome works with the PMS, we're essentially ingesting that reservation data, the booking data, the unit data to be able to manage the program, manage the policies. And the biggest piece for us is the biggest piece for me was working with property managers for so long and like seeing the 13 different tabs on their computer was like this can't be another manual burden. So we're automatically processing those claims every month, so there's no like manual burden for a manager to figure out the rebooking or calculate anything. Our technology is doing all of that.
How does that work with the OTAs? I'm thinking just off the top of my head, like the new policy that was announced this week with Airbnb, where they're going to do the buy now, pay later scenario. It's tied to the cancellation policy. So, do you have to have different structures for OTAs versus direct bookings, or is it seamless for those reservations because you're just looking at the reservation information?
Yeah. So because of that integration, we have the ability to see where this booking is coming from. Are you the merchant of record? Are you not the merchant of record? So you do have the ability to kind of bifurcate your strategy and say, yes, I want to go all in. Airbnb does not let me merchandise two rate options like I can on my IC&D website. So they have a different coverage model for those Airbnb or Vrbo bookings. And they're saying, hey, I want to give the flexibility, have the option on my direct booking website, which also I think will be a game changer as well, right? Because you're offering, you're saying to the guests like, do you want the best rate, come to my website, right? Like I think the merchandising even of that non-refundable rate is going to be a powerful signal to travelers that are on that booking page. They're really going to feel like they're getting something, they're making a choice. I'm choosing this non-refundable rate and I'm getting something for it. So
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest problems that, a lot of companies run into is, okay, in order to compete on Vrbo, Airbnb, you've got to have a more relaxed cancellation policy there, but you never want the policy on the OTAs or the price on the OTAs to be better, more lenient than what you have on your own site. But like in a lot of cases, that has to happen, for companies that are more reliant on the OTAs. And it's like, you're never going to be able to get ahead on building more direct business if what somebody can get on the channels is better. But at the same time, it's like, well, what comes first? You know, I mean, like you need to get the bookings in to turn them into repeat guests at some point, but it really becomes a struggle there. So I think this makes a lot of sense. But actual execution of it, as far as the website is concerned, that makes sense. That's probably been fairly straightforward, I feel like. I've been working with IC&D or some of the other website providers, but the back end side of what you've built is really the secret sauce, right? I mean, or the relationship of however you do the insurance side. So like, tell us about that process. Cause I mean, you weren't in the insurance industry. So like, how did you even get started on figuring out, okay, who's going to insure all this money?
Yeah, I mean the two pieces, and I think the experience that I've had in this industry, working for so many tech companies in the space, and really recognizing that, I think there is a huge need for a data normalization layer. We didn't want to be scrappy about it. We didn't want to be the startup that ran our business in spreadsheets. It was very important to us that right out of the gate, we were building a platform for scale, right? So thankfully, we have a great team of investors and advisors behind us that have been in VR tech for quite some time, to offer that strategic guidance and support. And my co-founder and chief product officer, his name's Austin. He worked at Blue Tent with me. That's where we met way back in the day when we had maybe fewer gray hairs than we do now. But so he's worked with these PMS APIs for years, right? Building these custom websites. So the translation between building that, ingesting the data, and creating this normalization layer that allowed us to create an API endpoint that our carriers now write to. It really just kind of was a beautiful like culmination of like grateful for mentors, advisors, investors, and then Austin's impact really has been a game changer.
So in my mind, I'm thinking, how did you take this into and Shark Tank is the only thing I can think about, but you had to take it to people and pitch this. And insurance is always one of those, we were talking about off camera, like insurance is just one of those, conversations that nobody likes to have. And it can be, I'm sure you feel like a therapist at times because people want to tell you all their woes about insurance. But when you put it conceptually down on paper and you had to go pitch it to somebody to say like invest in this, how did you put that together and like what kind of research went into doing that?
I mean, a lot. I think looking back, I maybe was slightly insane, right? Yeah, building a brand new product, pushing a pretty legacy, slow to move industry. It took a lot of beating on doors. I feel incredibly grateful that we found some of the best capacity partners in the world, these A-rated capacity partners that have billions of dollars on their balance sheet behind us who are actually insuring the risk. But in terms of like building our team, we raised a very small, seed round. I didn't have the resources myself to bootstrap this, but it really was, I think, just selling the vision, like selling the opportunity. Like there is a massive need for this, and I think some of it happened organically, right? Like I wasn't chasing money right out of the gate. I really was very naturally searching for advice, and going to folks that I trusted or respected, those who had built businesses in this industry before. And I think that's been, I can't understate the importance of not going it alone and building a team around you that has the strengths and the experiences maybe that you don't. I think that really has been a game changer. I'm incredibly grateful for that.
Yeah. And we talk about this all the time on the show, but it's like all the things that you've done up to this point have prepared you for this opportunity because, I mean, you were overseeing, Blue Tent and then the other companies. And it's like you learned so much in that process of like how websites are done and the other insurance companies that are part of Inhabit. So I'm sure just all that you lost most in those years, like that also probably gave you a bit of the confidence, I would think, right? Of like, okay, I've learned enough about all these different areas and I can see this one need that no one else is tackling.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Like years of, yeah, great experience seeing how it's done. And I definitely don't think I would have had the confidence without the mentors that I've had though. I think sometimes externally you need folks to say and see and believe something in you. But I also feel like so much of it has been happenstance, right? Like one of our key advisors who we work closely with on a daily basis. His name's Amit, and he 10, 15 years ago helped build the first commercial insurance product at Airbnb. He
Oh,
built the
wow.
program at Uber that insured the first Uber Black cars way back in the day. Um,
Wow.
and you sit here and you think, like, how do we build this team? And so much of it is just like happenstance, is like having the
Wow.
conversations, asking for the intros. And it came from an intro to an intro to an intro, and just asking a ton of questions. So I think,
Wow.
yeah, a lot of luck, a lot of luck.
And
Well, a
have
lot of
you,
hard work too.
yeah, yeah, a lot of hard work and experience. So how big is the team now at this point?
Our team is relatively small now. We've got really, it's Austin and myself, and we have several developers behind us who have been working with us really since the beginning. But we're really in grow mode right now. I think we're looking to hire several positions, customer success and sales, and I think that's one reason I'm very excited to be in Charleston next week. We're excited to grow the team. We're at really a pivotal point. So yeah, it's been exciting.
So in terms of growth, where are you at, or I guess adoption, where are you at with the number of property management groups you work with and say the number of properties that you're insuring?
So we work with about 20 different property managers at this point, really spanning all across the US in different markets, tons of different types of inventory, like the luxury lake properties, all the way down to like condos in Destin. In terms of units, I should know this off the top of my head, but I don't.
That's okay. It's okay. It's always a metric I ask about it. I'm just always curious. I remember I worked with somebody years ago, and I go, "How many units are in that building?" They're like, "I don't know. There's a bunch." Like it's just, and it's a weird metric that I always ask about. So going into the women's summit, one of the things that Alex and I really we talk about is women leaders, women in the business, and insurance is. I feel like it's notoriously led by men. Like there's not a lot of women kind of at a leadership level. So when you think about your contemporaries, say in other types of insurance, do you have any other women to look to go to for mentorship within this weird world?
You're right. Insurance is a legacy space, so it certainly is very male dominated. Should I say like seeking insurance mentor
Yeah.
applicants, please apply here.
Uh,
But I think there are some great women, in the space. There's a company in the UK called Pickle Insurance. They have a founding CEO who is a female. So, I mean, there are so many great advisors and investors and actuaries and underwriters who are strong leaders, female leaders in the industry. But you're right. I think the course of that is changing a little bit. But I mean, on the VR side of things, there are certainly so many women in the industry that I know and respect, and I have on speed dial at all times. And I think maybe that's one of the biggest learnings I've had in this whole experience, as how organically this group of supporters has come around not only Rome but me, and seeing the folks that have been able to offer support, offer mentorship, who are willing to do it without getting really anything back. Really, the genuineness of that really just underscores, like, I'm in the right industry. Like, this is a very special thing. And I know that because I've worked in other industries before. After I left Inhabit, I worked in prop tech and multifamily for a little while. It's just a different ecosystem, right? When you're managing assets for Greystar, it's very different than managing assets in the vacation rental industry. It's a bit more personal, and I think maybe that's what makes our industry, even on the vendor side, feel a little more personal.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the nice thing too about our industry of like, you're developing this go-to-market strategy and how you're going to get this out to everybody, but it's like, it's not like you just came up with this insurance tool or a technology platform that could be for any type of industry where now you're starting literally from scratch. You have connections and you know a lot of these people, right? So it's like you've got a little bit of a head start there on how you get this out there. We'll be back in just a minute. But first, a word from our premier brand sponsor, Track.
So my name's Gay Weber. I'm with Carolina Mornings Luxury Vacation Rentals. Track really caught my eye as a developing partner, as a company that was going to be building more solutions and adding to their product more quickly. Also really liked Track's all-in-one philosophy as opposed to a best-in-class. We really like having everything all under one roof in Track, and it all works well together. Major selling feature for me personally was the triggers and automations, and we make extensive uses. We have over 400 running each day, and that is that open-ended philosophy of allowing us to develop our own solution within Track as opposed to having canned options was a really driving force for us. The transition from Navis over into Track was pretty seamless. The system is simple but powerful. One of my favorite things is the little icon of what's new. And it's every day there's an update of something new. That's the mark of a software company that's moving quickly and fast, and that's what brought us to Track over Streamline ultimately.
Ready to take your operations to the next level? Get a free market assessment, a $400 value that gives you a clear picture of how your business stacks up against the competition. You'll meet one-on-one with a Track expert who will evaluate your performance in the context of your market, uncover gaps and opportunities, and deliver 3 to 5 actionable insights tailored to your business. This is your chance to find out what's working, what's not, and where you can improve based on real market data. Click the link in the description to get started today. I am curious, from the go-to-market strategy on this, what does that look like? How are you going to grow this? What is the plan to get this out to the masses?
The plan as of now is to be very strategic and smart about how we grow, right? I've seen a lot of other players come into the space, and I think to your point, it's like you walk on the showroom floor at a conference, it looks so much different these days than it did back
Yeah.
in 2017.
Oh yeah.
So there are a lot of, traditional players outside of the industry who have looked into this industry and they see a TAM, right? Like they see a total addressable market. They're doing a calculation on a valuation, and that's how they build the business. That's how they build the product. We want to do things differently, right? Like I think true innovation, for it to be meaningful, has to be built from within, because there are so many nuances that property managers deal with on a daily basis that make a product built outside of the industry less applicable or less impactful. Um, so that's a really long-winded way of saying, we want to be smart about our growth. We want to partner with the right property managers and know that our revenue, just like our customers' revenue, is an outcome of delivering a really great experience and delivering really great results. So I think for us, it's like, I don't want to have a massive HubSpot automation campaign. I want to sit next to a property manager. I want to understand their business. I want to understand what their owners care about, what their carrying cost is, how they're thinking about their revenue strategy. I think all of those things lead to an outcome. I don't necessarily want to be focused on that outcome.
I love that.
On your customer, like your ideal customer. I think of Alex and I talk about all the time that kind of the pie of the industry, being the smallest portion of the pie is the large operators. And then there's so many of these people out there that are 1, 2, 3, 5 units, and we really don't know how to get to them, but they're like the biggest segment of the industry. And that's kind of what all the channels are fighting for and all the different providers are fighting for. But I feel like what you're providing is something that would give them more stability to be able to grow their business. So how do you see yourself reaching into that and tapping into that side of the business? And if so, how are you looking to do that? Because I just always talk to people all the time and it's just everybody's like, well, how do we get to them? How do you speak to them? There's just we have VRMA for the traditional, operator, but for these smaller groups, it's kind of hit or miss.
Yeah. I mean, I think platform partnerships certainly are critical to that, right? The way that we've built our technology is really set up for a white label play. There's no reason a marketplace couldn't embed this into their platform to offer that flexibility to guests. Then that would help service kind of that smaller end of the market. And certainly, I think I've been surprised. I think my original thesis was, I think only larger managers would be attracted to this. And I think very quickly when we came to market, I quickly realized exactly your point. What you saw really intuitively is the smaller property managers love this just as much because it gives them that stability. It gives them the ability to not only secure the income, not only be more competitive on these OTAs, but in terms of like leveraging Rome, leveraging this protection for an early adopter in their market, it's a growth acquisition strategy. Their ability to attract new owners by saying, hey, no one else in this market can offer not only the most competitive listings, but guarantee your income in a way that I can. So I think that's how a lot of folks are seeing this as like, yes, it's great. I'm taking this and I'm running with it. And it's now my top bullet point for owner acquisition. And I think that plays to the larger property managers as well, because I think the flip side of that is, as a if I'm managing my own property, and a property manager comes to me and says, if I do this for you, I can guarantee your income. Why wouldn't I go with a large property manager, right?
Right,
Um,
right.
so I think there's several ways that folks can, distill this down to not only be a revenue engine for their bookings, but also for acquisition.
Yeah. Do you see this as something that you could also roll out though to smaller hosts or individual hosts?
We do. Yeah, absolutely. I think,
Okay.
yeah, I think to the conversation is like access to the smaller hosts, right? And I think that would be unlocking more PMS integrations. We have a very well documented, we're an API first platform. So any PMS could easily come in and write to our API and give their users access to our insurance, to our embedded booking protection.
Hmm.
And then again, back to the platform play. Um, if they're for platforms who are looking to grow their distribution models, embedding this right into, that booking experience for the traveler would be, I think, a no-brainer.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I think there's so many different approaches here that for the larger managers to be able to say to owners, try to get them onto their program, like I'm going to be able to promote your property to the fullest extent, both on the OTAs and on our own site. But you don't have to worry in those cases because it's like it is. I mean, if you've got a large home, even if it's not a large home, if it's a 3-bedroom condo and it's canceled just a few days prior to arrival, it's going to be really hard to find somebody that's going to book that without you cutting the rate significantly. So I think this makes sense on so many levels. And, there's so many different ways that companies have done or have tried to handle this over the years. And I think, some of the more legacy companies have been around for a long time. They have different things in place that you can get your money back if somebody rebooks the property. And that was the case at the company I was with for many years. And it can be crazy though, because the guest that had to cancel is calling and emailing me, did it get rebooked? Did it get rebooked? And it's like, oh no, like it's just, it really has, it's always been a problem. But I think now with the OTAs prioritizing the cancellation flexibility, it's made it even more of a problem that it's the problem is how do you keep your direct site as the best option for somebody to book on. So I think it's awesome. I really, really think this is going to be something that takes off.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear that. And I think you're right. Most managers I talk to have been in that similar situation of like, and I think intrinsically, all property managers want to do the right thing. And that's why they have these gray area policies of if it rebooks, because cost of acquisition, right? It's like you want that traveler to be happy, you want them to come back. And it's a huge operational burden. I've seen people managing it in spreadsheets. I had someone last week tell me they spend 4 hours on that spreadsheet in the summer every week. It's just massive versus like let them let them walk, refund them their money, and you're getting covered on the back end. It really is
Right.
that
Yeah.
simplicity.
Well,
The
and then
amount of stress that it removes from the manager to not have to worry about, like, I remember going into reservation offices and it was like the reservation was like, "We had 5 cancellations today." And then you're like freaking out, like, how are we gonna fill in those holes? Well, now it's like you can really focus and breathe and not get down the rabbit hole of like
yeah.
despair because you had cancellations.
Well, and the hard thing is too, I mean, travel insurance is great, but travel insurance traditionally only covers certain things. I mean, it covers job loss and hurricanes and like unforeseeable events, but it's not canceled for any reason. So if you just can't make it, something came up, and if you're a reservationist or you're a company and you've been pushing to buy the travel insurance and you bought it, but now you have to cancel, but it doesn't fit into that criteria. And now the company is saying, well, you only get your money back if the property's re-rented. It's like, you're pretty pissed off, like as a guest. And that's such a good point on the customer acquisition, Sasha, is like, that guest is not going to come back and stay with you. And, if that was a booking that came in from a paid ad, you probably, paid pretty heavy for that in the grand scheme of things. So it's definitely, it's a portion of the business that it really touches the entire brand and the future success of the company as well.
Yeah, that is really what makes me very excited, and I think what sets us apart so much from travel insurance, which I agree certainly has its place, but it's not a reason people book with you, right? Like it is an add-on. In many ways, it does create friction in that back end of the booking process. But this isn't travel insurance. This is revenue certainty built into every booking. And I think what's exciting to me is we're taking this pain point and we're turning it into a competitive advantage. I mean, I do so much research on property managers' websites before a call to figure out what their cancellation policy is. And I'm telling you, it's like doing brain surgery. It's
Oh
buried.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like buried in the terms and conditions. And it's
Mhm.
just like, let us eliminate that. Like instead of apologizing or hiding this cancellation policy, advertise it. Like have it be a brand promise that you wave in the marketplace, that flag, that reason that like I'm gonna book with ABC property management company every time because they let me cancel, right? Like I think the brand experience impact on the owner side and the traveler side is the most fun piece.
And I think it's not like implementing this is just going to have just a wave of cancellations. I mean, people don't book reservations thinking like, this is going to be fun. I'm going to go book this one, then I'm going to cancel it. Then I'm going to book this one, then I'm going to cancel that one. Like nobody does that, right? So like that's not fun. But
We
like,
hope not.
yeah, yeah. But it opens you up to, I mean, it's far more flexibility. And I know, I mean, just years ago and using booking.com, like I remember we would get a lot of bookings that would come in and a lot of them would cancel because in some cases people would use it for a similar thing that they'd book a couple different options and then whichever one that they thought was going to be the best one they would keep because they made it so easy. But like the culture of vacation rentals, I don't think it really mimics that of like if you found the perfect home and like you're going to want to stay there, but you should be able to if you can't things come up. I mean, it's life, you don't want to be indebted to something that you can't even get to enjoy. But my question would be, so does this replace travel insurance? Like, what do you even need travel insurance for? Because if it's canceled for whatever reason it is, whether it is a hurricane or a job loss, like, does this eliminate the need for that?
I don't think so. I think there certainly still is a place for, I think it creates this conversation of like, what risk should the manager bear and what risk should the traveler bear, right? And there are still so many things that travel insurance covers that that a flexible cancellation policy doesn't, right? It's like, I tear my ACL on the ski hill and I got to get medevaced out of Vail. I'm buying travel insurance when I go ski at Vail. Or, I'm bringing grandma to the beach vacation. What happens if she gets sick, during or trip interruption insurance, or my flights get canceled, or all of those, cancellations that happen really during the trip. There's still a need for those things, I think, to be protected. And there are things obviously above and beyond the accommodation that are part of that investment that you're making when you travel that need to be protected. But I think kind of bifurcating those two things and knowing, like, as a consumer, I am making a decision to book a property not because they have travel insurance, but because they're making it really easy for me to book and they're letting me cancel, right? So the question in a traveler or consumer's mind is like, do I book the property that is no refund or a 60-day cancellation and buy travel insurance? Or do I just book the property that has flexible cancellation and add travel insurance if I want to, if I need coverage for all of these other things, right? So that's the choice that folks are making, and it seems to be a pretty clear one. As the data shows, yeah.
And it makes sense too, because I mean, travel insurance in a lot of cases is a great revenue source for property management companies too. So I think if there's a way to do the blend of the two, there it makes sense. But what does the financial piece of this look like? I mean, how is it? I'm sure it varies by company, but like what is the model of how they're charged for this?
Yeah, so the exact price is determined kind of during this underwriting process where we're taking a look at their historical cancellation data, but is a percentage of the reservation. Um, because folks are adding a premium amenity, they're offering flexible cancellation. They're able to now actually show up in searches on OTAs. You have the ability to justify a higher rate. So all of our customers are, taking that premium price, embedding it in the nightly rate in their PMS, so that when it gets syndicated out to their direct booking website or these channels, they're essentially passing off the cost or covering the cost during that, embedding it in nightly rate to cover the cost, so that their commissionable net nightly rate stays kind of like net neutral. So I think that's another beautiful part of it is like managers are passing off the cost and seeing a pretty massive return in terms of increased conversion, driving more reservations. And the impact on organic ADR growth has been like another surprise for me to see in the data, right? Like the number of reservations that are booked more than 60 days out. It's like in that instance, you don't even have to raise your rate. You're just organically getting a higher rate because you're giving them the confidence to like not wait till the last minute to book. Um,
Sure.
so
What in terms of availability, is it available just in the US, or are you able to do this outside the US?
so right now we're protecting property managers who are based in the US. So we can protect property managers that may have a few properties outside of the US, but as it stands today, currently for property managers in the US.
Gotcha. Yeah, I could definitely see this being used overseas though. So hopefully, when you get to that point, you'll have to let us know. We can come back on the show because we have a lot of people over in Europe that listen to the show, and I think it's a concern globally and an issue. So, but I know insurance isn't always that simple to just say, okay, we can open it up. So, well, this has been really awesome to hear about this, Sasha. And before we hit play, I had mentioned that I was excited for this recording because this conversation has just organically come up with a few of my clients recently of them kind of brainstorming an idea like this and saying, like, could we do it? And, it maybe, but it's like that's the conversations have more gone towards like a self-funding kind of model, which isn't practical in all cases. And I think this could end up being a financial nightmare for companies if they didn't have someone that was backing on the other side of it. So this seems like a great solution. But thank you for coming on, and we're excited to. By the time this airs, we'll be back from the women's conference, but we're excited to see you next week at the women's conference.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for the opportunity to kind of geek out about flexible cancellation. That's what I live and breathe. And yeah, it's been a great chat. Excited to see you guys next week in Charleston.
Well, I did a session a couple of years ago at Darm, and I joked about it. We were just talking about this the other day. It was like I was doing a session on the thing that's the least talked about and probably the least sexy is insurance. And I think what you can turn it on its head and make it sexy again because people are going to want to talk about this. This is a really great product, and like you said, very timely considering what the channels are doing to try to make more flexible booking policies for the consumer. And so this is going to give managers the peace of mind that they need to be able to play in all the areas that they should be able to play in. But if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to reach out?
Best way is Sasha at gorome.io, SASHA at gorome.io. Yeah, reach out with questions, comments, feedback. I love to hear all of it, right? That's how we learn, that's how we grow.
Awesome. Well, we will make sure to include that in our show notes along with your website and LinkedIn profile too. But if anybody wants to get in touch with Annie and I, you can go to alexandanniepodcast.com. And until next time, thanks for tuning in, everybody.